So, you guys think this is going to be a regular movie review, huh? Well, you're wrong. What is up, everybody? The cornucopia of craziness back here again.
Alright, everyone, chill.
I'm done. This is not cool. Today's the second day of my Washington trip.
It was absolutely terrible.
I'm gonna pull a Bret Hart and call this a 4 out of 10. See you guys later. Cornucopia of craziness out. What is up, everybody? Cornucopia of craziness back here again. As you can see from the title of this video is going to be different from the rest of the movie reviews that I put up on this channel. I'm going to do this one a little differently because I noticed that my movie reviews, even I think they're a little boring. I think that I don't do as well when I'm unedited with those videos. And they don't get a lot of views, let's just be honest. So, what I'm doing today is instead of just reviewing one movie, I'm going to review multiple franchises. First of all, let's talk about the Sam Raimi films. The Sam Raimi films made my childhood, personally. They were the Spider-Man movies that I grew up with, that I cherished watching every day that I got home from school. That I put a few scenes on repeat, just so I could see how awesome they were again. Yeah. These movies were fantastic for their time. And they're still fantastic today because they're timeless for how good they are. Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker made that era for me when I was a little kid. He is almost the perfect Spider-Man. Almost the perfect Spider-Man. He has actual character. It's very difficult for him to adjust to this new role that he has as Spider-Man. Weighing down a job and weighing down this crime-fighting stuff. And weighing down school. Like, you kind of get a sense of a real character here. And somewhat of a relatable character. Because some people have to go through 2 jobs. They have to go through school while also going through those 2 jobs sometimes. And you just get this feeling of like, hey, I've actually been there. They wrote this character so well that you just relate to it. Now, you could argue that Kirsten Dunst is kind of the weak link in all these movies, and I kind of agree. I agree. And her love story is kind of just boring and unfulfilling. Like, you think they're going to get together at the end of the movie, they're going to get married, they're going to have kids, and blah, 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 all that crap. And they don't every single time. They have such love for each other at the beginning of each movie, and then it's gone. Because of some storyline reason. Because, in Spider-Man 1, it's because, well, I'm trying to jog my memory here. I think it was because he wanted her to be safe, because she didn't want to, because if Peter Parker was around her, then people would know that he was Spider-Man or some crap. I don't know. I gotta rewatch this stuff again. Spider-Man 2, she's about to get married to J. Jonah Jameson's son, the astronaut, and she eventually ditches him. And goes to meet Peter and make plans for their marriage, which was cool. We were like, oh my god, this is going to finally happen. They're going to get married. And then at the 3rd movie, all of a sudden, she wants to hang out with Harry Osborn, and like, it's just stupid love triangle stuff. But it doesn't break down the movies at all. It really doesn't. The main things that make these movies great, however, are not Spider-Man, not Harry Osborn, and not Mary Jane Watson. It is J. Jonah Jameson and the villains. Especially J. Jonah Jameson and Norman Osborn's Green Goblin. These two steal the show. J. Jonah Jameson was played by J.K. Simmons, who owned this role. He absolutely owned it. He made sure you knew he was J. Jonah Jameson. Like, whenever he went, Parker! You knew that was like, oh my god, this is just straight ripped from the comic book pages. It is so accurate. As for Willem Dafoe, who played Green Goblin, yeah, you could say he chewed the scenery, but it was good chewing of the scenery. It was made for that kind of movie. His chewing of the scenery made his character so much better, so much scarier. The suit could be improved on, but whatever. Doc Ock was just a dude who had gotten into this because of his problems with his wife dying and stuff, with his mechanical arms being infused into his nervous system. It's not his fault, really. He just ended up being this way. And that's a really interesting take on it. Like, he was a friend of Peter Parker and Harry Osborn, and he just became like this. And it's sad. It's tragic. As for Spider-Man 3, you could say there's too many villains, and I would agree with you. Venom is not really executed that well. He's not in that movie for that long. He's only in it for, like, I would say 10 minutes. And his time in the movie is not really spent well. Sandman, he's cool. I like Sandman in the movie, Spider-Man 3. He becomes the killer of Uncle Ben. Well, by the way, Uncle Ben, great mentor character for Peter Parker, the son, the child. And Aunt May, also very good. She's emotional support, very good emotional support, very written very well. But anyway, back to the villains. Sandman is good. His story is very contrived, but very well done, very well written. And Harry Goblin is just Harry Goblin. No, he's more than that. He goes after Spider-Man because he feels that Spider-Man killed his father on purpose, which is not true. But it creates a great arc over all three movies, and it finally comes down to that. That's what I feel like the Sam Raimi movies, people don't understand about it, is that they're so well written, they have great story arcs, great characters, and they just need to be celebrated. At least in my opinion. If you don't want to celebrate it, I don't care. They're just great. Looks like the point of me making this video review that I dread the most has finally come. Next up, much to my utter discontent, to my utter chagrin, at this point I have to talk about,
why did I get myself into this shit? I have to do this, don't I? Do they know how much I sacrificed?
the Amazing SpiderMan series with Andrew Garfield playing the titular character. Oh my god. This killed my love for Spider-Man in film for a long, long time. 2 years to be exact. You know, until Tom Holland saved it from the grave. But going back to the Amazing Spider-Man films, these are not just bad Spider-Man films. They are just bad movies in general. At least in my opinion. I don't know what you guys think. If you love it, if you love these movies, I don't have any beef with you. But I just don't love these movies. They are crap. Let me put it this way. If the Sam Raimi films were like a golden bowl of M&Ms sitting next to a rainbow, the Amazing Spider-Man films are like a pile of horse shit mixed with puke and piss in a garbage can next to a dumpster. If you can imagine the sense of that smell of that trash and that puke and that piss and that shit, then you can imagine how bad this movie was. And the movies were, the series. And I can name all the reasons that I hate these movies as the bane of my existence off my hand. 1. Underdeveloped characters. 2. Boring and uninteresting storylines that have no connection. Unfocused. 3. Actors that don't give a crap. That are in it for the money. That at least seem like they're in it for the money. And 4. Stupid villain motivations and forgettable villains. I don't want to bring myself to this. It has gotten to this point. First, let's talk about the first one. The establishment of Peter Parker's character is terrible in this movie. You don't know whether he's a nerd, or a jock, a skater kid, or a guy who dwells on the internet. You walk out of this movie not knowing who the hell this kid is. In the Sam Raimi films, you know exactly who he is. A socially awkward nerd who doesn't interact with anybody. And who keeps secrets from his family, even for the most smallest things. But this kid, they don't know what they want him to be. Andrew Garfield, I mean. Peter Parker. And the most nerdy thing they have him do is the search engine, like, go search on websites like Bing.
Hey guys, look, I am such a nerd. I go on Bing. Let's look up spiders, since I am so interested in spiders. I am such a nerd. I am such a nerd. Look, I'm looking up spiders. I was bitten by a spider. I go on Bing. I am such a nerd. I go on Bing!
And don't even get me started on Uncle Ben and Aunt May in the Amazing Spider-Man series. They are not the same characters that they were in the Sam Raimi films. Not by a long shot. Not even close. They don't have the same emotional impact that they did in the Sam Raimi films, those two characters. Uncle Ben's character in these movies was butchered. Butchered. The Uncle Ben in the Sam Raimi films was emotionally powerful. He felt like a father figure, taking care of his, I don't know, I guess you could say nephew, or in this case, kind of like a son. But in the Amazing Spider-Man movies, he's just there to give cheesy versions of what Cliff Robertson did in those movies, in the other ones. Instead of saying, with great power comes great responsibility, as like a poignant message to push his Peter Parker's good moral character along, he instead says, what was his name? He's one of the Sheen brothers. I don't know what his full name is. Martin Sheen. He instead says, instead of saying with great power comes great responsibility, he says, don't do what's not right. Because if you do what's right, that's what's right. Or something along those lines. And it doesn't have the same emotional impact that it should, like it did in the last few films. And as for Aunt May, she's even worse. She's butchered even worse. Aunt May in these movies is so misrepresented. And so miswritten. She is just there for comedy gags at this point in the franchise. She is only there to question Peter Parker if he has bad laundry. I am not joking. That is what happens in the movie. Like, she's there to say, for example, like, she finds, like, red and blue mixed up stuff in Peter's laundry. And she goes, oh, where did these come from? Where are these from? And he goes, oh, I put the American flag in the washer. You gotta be kidding me! The Aunt May in the first series, the Sam Raimi movies, she was like all supportive and she was a good aunt to Peter. She was providing help in the morning after Uncle Ben died, saying that it wasn't his fault that he died. But this Aunt May, played by Sally Ride, or whatever her name is, Sally something. She adds nothing to the story. She adds no emotional impact. I'm sorry. If you like these characters, of course these two are great actors, but they can't do anything to save these two characters at all. I'm sorry. And the villains. The villains are some of the worst villains that I've ever seen in any superhero movie, period. Their motivations are crap, and they're just plain forgettable in every sense of the word. Let's go over Lizard first, from Amazing Spider-Man, aka Dr. Connors. His motivation is stupid. Let's just make everyone a lizard by putting this gas in the air. Because reasons Peter Parker's involved with. Nothing. Just plain nothing burger. Then we go to Amazing Spider-Man 2. Where you have the Rhino just shoehorned in to the movie. Because we just need 3 villains for a movie. That's all we need. I feel like the superhero movies with 3 villains in them are cursed because they're always bad. Well, let's not say bad, but they're just lower in quality. Anyway, I talked about Rhino just now. Green Goblin, and by Green Goblin I mean Norman Osborn's Green Goblin. Bad motivation. Just a forgettable character, once again, just like the Lizard. His motivation is he wants Spider-Man's blood because he thinks it'll cure him of some disease that he has, like his father, some genetic disease, some complicated crap that we can't understand because we don't care about this character at all. And the worst motivation of all these movies is Electro. Get this, and be prepared to hear the stupidity of what his motivation was. Listen. His motivation, Electro's motivation, by the way, he's played by Jamie Foxx, by the way. His motivation is that Spider-Man forgot to attend his birthday party, or forgot to celebrate his birthday. This Electro guy. I'm just gonna put you down after hearing that. Absolute garbage. That is something that a 5-year-old would write.
So, Mr. Director, I think Electro should go after Spider-Man because he doesn't attend his birthday party and he's really upset and sad and he wants to go after him because he didn't attend his birthday because he's sad and he's mad.
One last thing I want to mention before I move on to the next series, which is Spider-Man Homecoming, or at least the film Spider-Man Homecoming. I'll move on. Before I move on to that, thank God, is I want to talk about the music between the Sam Raimi films and the Amazing Spider-Man movies. The Amazing Spider-Man music doesn't even compare to the Sam Raimi music. Not even close. I'll ask your opinion. For once. Which would you rather listen to? This? Or this? would say, in my opinion, great hummable orchestra versus dubstep trash any day, I would pick the orchestra music. Finally, we get to talk about Spider-Man Homecoming, the most recent Spider-Man movie that I've seen, the most recent Spider-Man movie that's been released. I saw this movie on Tuesday, and this movie felt like such a breath of fresh air in the Spider-Man franchise. This movie was amazing, no pun intended, and it brought back the heart and the joy that I felt when I was watching the Sam Raimi films. This movie felt like Spider-Man again. It brought back hope. Tom Holland is a great Spider-Man. I would say that he's a nice mix between Tobey Maguire, his nerdy character, and a little bit of Andrew Garfield, not too much. Not too much of the bad stuff that came with him, but just like the smack-talky, comedic character that he tried to be at least. But Tom Holland does that comedy so much better. When Andrew Garfield, when his comedy and his acting seemed forced and contrived, Tom Holland seemed natural, and his acting just flowed into the role of Spider-Man. He was so freaking good. I'm not gonna lie to you. Aunt May was kind of just in there, but you can kind of forgive that. This movie gives leeway to every problem that it has. It is so good that the flaws don't even connect to how good this is. It is so good. Really good. And the main villain, his motivations make sense. They are real. And he feels like a real human who's trying to kill this guy because he's pissed off at him. Michael Keaton's Vulture is trying to get at Spider-Man. And by the way, don't watch this video if you haven't seen Spider-Man Homecoming yet, because there will be spoilers. He wants to kill Spider-Man because he's ruining his weapons and arms deals. And he's just considers Spider-Man to be a nuisance. That is real motivation. That is real. That is like the Sam Raimi films where Norman Osborn wanted to kill Spider-Man because he killed his dad. Real stuff. Real interesting motivation that creates interesting story arcs. That is what the villains are all about. Creating interesting story arcs and creating conflict. Unlike some movies, Amazing SpiderMan 2, 1 and 2. The love interests in this movie are a little better than Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi films. They could have been done a little better, but they weren't the big issue in this movie. It was a little more natural, the love stuff, with Liz, the smart decathlon kid, who, by the way, happens to be the daughter of Michael Keaton's Vulture character. She plays the role really well. She's type, basically. She's the love interest. The friend, Ned, who is basically the kid in the chair for Spider-Man and Peter Parker, if you think about it. He's a good character. He's serviceable. He kind of helps the movie along. He's interesting. He kind of gets annoying with the whole, how do you do this? How do you do that? How do you spin the webs? It gets kind of annoying, but you know what? I can forgive it. He's a good enough character. I just don't know what else to say about it. It's really good. And by the way, everyone thought that this movie would be Iron Man plus Spider-Man. It would just be Iron Man 4 with little scenes of Spider-Man in it. But that's not true. Iron Man is in this movie only for a little bit. And when he is in the movie, he is fantastic. He adds to the story. He's a mentor to Peter Parker. And he adds so much to this. Like, you wouldn't even believe. Iron Man is mentoring Spider-Man to be like him, in a way. He's motivates Peter Parker, if you think about it, if you watch this film. When he takes the suit away, his true intention is, okay, let's make this kid tougher and want this hero job more than he already does. And he succeeds. He succeeds in proving that cause. And when he asks Spider-Man to join the Avengers, when Tom Holland's Peter Parker refuses, he goes, okay, he made the right decision. That's how you develop a mentor. That's how you develop a good character. Unlike some movies. Okay. So that's the last of it. Now, I'm going to rank the movies, and then I'm going to do the difficult task of ranking all the series in numerical order by which I like them by. Okay, here's my rankings of the movies. Now, if I remember correctly, there are 6 movies. Let's start off with Amazing Spider-Man 2, crap. 5, Amazing Spider-Man, crap. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Some people were expecting me to put Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3 at the very bottom at number 6. But I'm actually going a different step. Because I thought this movie was so much better than Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. I'm putting Spider-Man 3 at number 4. Because even though it has its flaws and it has its stupid little things that it does, it is a million times better than Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. Because it has actual characters, it has actual story, believe it or not. And it's awesome. Harry Osborn wants to kill Peter Parker because Spider-Man killed his dad and all that stuff. Actual villain motivation for you. Okay, moving on to number 3. Oh, this is where it gets difficult. Number 3, I would have to put Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 is good, but, like I said, this is kind of difficult. Spider-Man 2 is a really good movie, but I don't know. I don't know what to say. Doc Ock is a good villain. There's a lot more emotional stuff, like, what is Spider-Man going to do if he's not Spider-Man? And just everything about this movie is almost perfect. But it's at number 3, because there's 2 other movies that are more perfect than it. I don't know if I could explain that well, what I just said, but okay. I'll just move on. Number 2, I put... I'm thinking this off the top of my head here. I'm thinking number 2, I'm going to put Spider-Man Homecoming. Because, it's new, it's a new thing, and it was still really good, still great, a great Spider-Man movie, also a great introduction to the MCU for Spider-Man. This made me want to see more of him. And of course, at number 1, like I mentioned before, I love this movie. This is the quintessential Spider-Man movie for me. It is the first Sam Raimi film. Great villain, great introduction to Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire playing an awkward teenager. Just the perfect Spider-Man movie. As for the rankings of all the series put together, that's the bigger question. But, let's just talk about the obvious. Amazing Spider-Man is obviously, that series is obviously at the low point, number 3. Let's just get that out of the way right now. You already know my reasons why. It just sucks. Anyway, for number 2 and number 1, this will be very interesting. Because Sam Raimi's Spider-Man series altogether, really good films. Also, Spider-Man Homecoming, really good film. And it'll probably make good films in the future, in the MCU. So, I'm thinking, right now I have to decide between what has already happened that is great, versus what has already happened that is great, and then some potential. So, I think I'm going to put Spider-Man Homecoming second, for now. and then I'm going to put Sam Raimi's films first. Because let's face it, I grew up with the Sam Raimi films. They're great. They're rewatchable all the time. They're timeless for most people. Because some people think that the movies are outdated and they don't last their time. But you know what? I don't care what people say. They're still good movies. I love them. So anyway, that's the end of the movie. That's the end of the video, you guys. So, what did you guys think? If you like this sort of video, I'll keep doing it. But if it doesn't get that amount of views, then I'll probably just stop doing movie reviews altogether, because it's kind of draining to do these videos and then not get the views, you know? And then just being bored watching it myself. It wouldn't be worth it. But if you guys like it, I'll continue doing it this way. And heck, I'll come up with more interesting stuff to do. So, I'll check you guys later. Peace out. Cornucopia Craziness out.